I'm going to build an automatic dripstone farm disguised as a lighthouse, which will be placed in the ocean just off the coast of my hardcore medieval island. And the reason that I need this dripstone is because the original source of lava that came with this island has almost entirely dried out, which means that I'll be using the dripstone from today's farm to make an automatic lava farm in the future. And the reason why I'm choosing to do this small island over here, over all of the other islands that are available in this area, one, it's almost the perfect size for me to start off of, and two, it is very close if I go into FreeCam to show you, to this little area right here, which I would like to turn into a port in the future. And I would have chosen that island, but it's a little small. But I'm actually going to be building a custom island for this lighthouse, so we need some materials first. So if we grab ourselves everything we're going to need for our chest monster, then we can set up on the coast and jump straight into gathering the resources that we're going to need for both the island and the lighthouse. I've mentioned in the last couple of episodes that I've gotten tired of collecting all of the massive amounts of spruce wood required for the last couple of buildings. So for this episode, I decided to switch things up a little bit and design our lighthouse out of literally anything but spruce. I collected significantly less spruce wood and instead collected a comparable amount of birch and oak wood. While I gather the resources that I'll need for each episode, there's usually a variety of things that I don't immediately have in my chests, which I have to go looking for. I usually don't show that on camera, but I think I'm going to make a new segment in each video where I take you guys along to find the random resources that we don't have. And the last two things that we are missing from this collection is sandstone and moss. So we can grab what little moss blocks we have left over and borrow some bone meal from the lichen farm. And just to double check, we have an empty ender chest and our netherite hoe in here. So that should set us up for getting all the moss that we need. And as for the sandstone, we have a fully healed up netherite shovel, so we should be good on that aspect for now. We also have a little bit of sandstone in here. Well, pre-sandstone. And then I believe all we have to do to make this smooth sandstone is smelt this down, and there we go. I'm just gonna put these back for now because we'll craft all of that later when we get back. So if we go ahead and grab ourselves a boat, we can head over to the coast and boat our way over across the ocean towards the cave that I like to bone meal all of my moss and collect it. And it appears that I have actually gone to the wrong cave. I do this every time, I swear. I think we're supposed to be at this one. No worries, it's just a little trip over in this direction. Aw. Plus, then we get to see a couple cute spotted horses. I really gotta get one of those for the island. I think that's my favorite texture of horse in the game. Alrighty, now that we are at the correct cave, as you can see, I have already made a massive tunnel right there with my previous moss endeavors. So I think we're just going to start right here next to it and do the exact same thing. I started out by making a flat spot in the stone because I found it makes the moss spread more even, so it's much easier to mine. And once I got that established, it's a fairly simple process to make my moss tunnels. You just place some moss in the center block, bone meal it, and mine all of the new moss blocks up with a hoe. I needed about 140 moss blocks today, so I just rounded up and collected roughly 3 stacks so that we have extra for the future. And as an added bonus, we not only got some moss, but we also got plenty of stone, azalea bushes, and some ores. So if we slap all of this into our ender chest so that we can start collecting some sand, this is actually luckily right next door to the cave, which is perfect. So let's do one more grind session for this resource collecting and completely demolish this poor desert. I started at the top of the small sand dune and made my way downwards. I need roughly 3 stacks of regular sand for this project, but I made sure to collect a little bit extra just in case. Once I reached sandstone level, it made the process of collecting go significantly faster, which was good because I needed almost 12 stacks of sandstone. And now that we have all of the sand available in our inventory, we can finally make our way back to the island and put all of our sandstone in some furnaces to get smelting into the smooth sandstone variant. And while that is all smelting, we can go ahead and put all of our inventory items away. And like I said, it has been really nice that we got a ton of regular smooth sandstone, as our cobblestone farm only produces the cobblestone variant. So smooth sandstone is surprisingly rare because I have to actually go mining for it. And just to kill a little bit more time while that sandstone is smelting, we can go ahead and heal up our tools by trading with our farmers. And now that the majority of the sandstone has been smelted, we can go ahead and pull all of our sandstone and our moss over to the chest monster, and we can finally get started on terraforming this island. Because this building is partially set in water, I decided it would be easier if I drained the area before I got started so that I could place the blocks easier. After making an outline of my island shape, I was left with what looked like a donut of water to drain. I then started adding my first layer of blocks, and me being very professional, forgot to hit start recording when I was placing all of the sandstone and the birch and the oak logs. So those kind of just appear in the video, but I promise I did spend like 30 minutes on that. I used that specific mixture of blocks to try and give the appearance that the sand was more wet the closer you got to the water, and after I got that base layer completed, I started making my way upwards with some rock formations. I also made sure to add a spruce path heading up the rocks so we can still access the lighthouse in the future. And just so we're not jumping straight back into a time lapse by building again, I think we are actually going to break up the segment by doing our quality of life. And for today's quality of life segment, I actually think I want to finally upgrade this diamond pickaxe to be netherite just like our other one. The only difference between these two is that this one has silk touch and this one has fortune 3. And I currently already have 3 netherite scraps, which means that we should just need 1 more netherite scrap and then we can duplicate this template. I believe using netherrack? Yes, there we go. So now we have 2 templates, one can be safe in here, and then we can use that for later. And now all we need to do is head into the nether. I think I'm going to use this portal this time because I never use this one. It looks very pretty on the outside, but I haven't set up the inside to be very, well, hardcore safe, as you can tell. But it should be fine if we're just mining in the other direction to head down to Y level 15 to find ourselves some netherite. Taking a closer look, I actually don't think there is a way for me to get down to Y15, so I tried. Time to hit the other portal. Luckily enough for us, this portal actually has our railway all the way over to the Wither Skeleton farm, which it stays pretty level for the first part, but towards the end it starts dipping downwards like this, which goes pretty deep, and I think that's an okay place for us to start. So if we go right over in this corner and just start heading downwards, then we can put ourselves on Y15 here and just start digging in one direction until we find ourselves some ancient debris. And just like that, we have our very first piece of ancient debris. Oh, and some lava. Guess I should have expected that. And then let's just make sure there's not any extras in here that I'm missing. Not that I would be able to see them easily. I'm gonna assume no. And luckily that ancient debris piece is the only one that we need to fill the gap between the 3 and the 4 netherite scraps that we need. So that already took long enough, so I think I'm just gonna take that as a win and head out. And now there's just a very long tunnel between me and home. And if we set ourselves back up on the minecart track, it'll bring us all the way back to our nether hub. And now all we need to do is take that ancient debris and slap it in one of these furnaces, preferably one with fuel. And while that's smelting, we can go ahead and craft up some of that gold that we were also mining, which is handy because I think we only had 1 gold ingot, which probably would have been enough, but I wouldn't want to use my last gold and be completely out. So now we can craft ourselves up that netherite ingot, and with the netherite upgrade and the netherite ingot, plus our diamond pickaxe, we can go ahead and make our way all the way over to the toolsmith, where there is a smithing table right here, and now all we have to do is that, and the pickaxe, and we have officially made ourselves a netherite silk touch pickaxe, which means that all of our tools and all of our gear are completely netherited out, if that's even a proper terminology of it. But with that quality of life section aside, I definitely am happy to have that. So we can go ahead and clear out all of our inventory and head back again over towards the chest monster, where we can grab all of those materials that we just put away, make sure to fill up our ender chest, and using our brand new netherite silk touch pickaxe, we can pick that up and start heading towards the island again. And this time, since we already did our quality of life, I don't think I'm going to split this in half, so we're just going to jump straight in and build the entirety of the lighthouse. I started out by finishing up the interior of the mountain, which has a cave entrance on the back side of the island. All of the redstone for the dripstone farm is hidden in there. On top of the island now, I started building a base for the lighthouse and a small building attached to it that serves as an emergency medical bay and shelter from ocean storms. After the medical building was complete, I moved on to finish building the rest of the lighthouse tower, using shroom lights as our light source. Since my build style is medieval fantasy and that doesn't typically involve technology like light bulbs, I also made sure to utilize the size and the placement of the trees on this island to counterbalance the lighthouse shape. Finally, my island was still floating above the water, and that looks a little silly. So I decided to terraform under the water with some sandstone. Luckily, I already have aqua affinity on my helmet, or I probably would have drowned a couple of times trying to complete this terraforming project. And now that our entire build has been completed, it is time for me to finally give you guys a tour. So starting off, Creeper Island. We're gonna have to fix that soon, but really here. Starting off, we've got the boardwalk right here. I made this out of some campfires, and when you use the shovel on it, it takes out the fire portion of the campfire. I also made sure to add some unstripped logs at the bottom, so it kind of appeared as if this part that was in the water was more wet than the top part. And I was actually pleasantly surprised how well these hanging signs ended up looking as kind of our barrier to the bridge so people don't fall off. Next up on the tour is the exterior of the island. I kind of already talked a little bit about this. I went from oak wood to birch wood to sandstone to kind of give it an appearance that it is more wet the closer that you get to the water. I also made sure to include a lot of lichen throughout here so that it is lit up. That way on this main island we won't have a creeper island situation. I also went through and added a bunch of stone buttons. I figured these kind of just looked like some rocks or pebbles scattered around the island. They don't actually have any purpose. You can click any one of them and they don't do anything. And as you saw in the time lapse, we have one big tree and two small spruce trees. I tried to make sure that everywhere there was a tree, there was some sort of moss underneath it, so it was reasonable that they could grow here. I didn't feel like a tree like a palm tree or any other variant was very applicable because most of the trees on my island are spruce, so I figured an island very close to it would have similar geographies. So we stuck with the classic spruce tree. And heading back here again, I will show you guys the cave entrance that I was talking about. As you can see, I just kind of dug out a hole back here, tried to make it a little bit asymmetrical, not too pretty, typical cave entrance. I also made sure that this in here had a floor, so it was like you walked into the cave and got to see all of the farm running inside. Now currently, this is actually running a little bit slow, and that is because we only have 1, 2, 3, and 4 dripstones running at this moment, mostly because that is all that I had available to me when I was building, so I was waiting for it to generate a little bit more, and it looks like we did one whole dripstone the entire time that I was building. And if I had my silk touch pickaxe on me, I'd put it in there, but I will do that later. Now dripstone kind of is naturally a slower farm, but once we get all of these slots filled in, it will be significantly faster than the one dripstone. And it is actually a little hard for me to show you how that farm works, considering I kind of, lodged it in a cave. So welcome to my creative testing world. This is kind of where I make sure all of the redstone farms work, plan out what my builds are going to look like, and in this case, this is the dripstone farm that I tested in my creative world to make sure that it worked. So if I kind of peel it back for you here, I can show you how you can build this yourself. Basically all it is a dripstone block, then you place your pointed dripstone underneath it, and as you can see there is water dripping off of this one, but not this one. So if we head up here, we can encase an area really quick for that water to sit, and then we fill it up, and as you can see there should be some water dripping out of this dripstone eventually. And then from there, the redstone is actually really simple. You just make sure that you place an observer with the face part of it facing the dripstone. Then you can grab yourself a piston, face it towards the dripstone as well. Then if you add a spare block behind it and some redstone, that will activate that observer. So as the water drips through the dripstone, this will slowly create a bigger dripstone spike. And when that observer notices that that has changed into a big dripstone, it will activate this piston underneath it, knock half of the dripstone off, leaving the original source and giving us a spare dripstone. And the way that you can catch that dripstone falling is a super simple collection system. It's just a hopper going into a chest. One thing I did notice as I was testing is that the dripstone tended to kind of fly upwards for some reason. So make sure that you cover up your water source if you're building this farm as well. Alternatively, you can also waterlog some sort of item so that the water is still there, but it is a sealed top. And back in the hardcore world, now you know how we got this one singular pointed dripstone. So now that the outside and the inside of the first floor is done, I can start showing you the second floor. First off, I had a bunch of stairs going all the way up to it. I tried to make it super rickety, as if it was kind of hard to build out here, since it is technically the middle of the ocean. I also liked the feature that there was a couple of pressure plates along here. One that was for spawn proofing, and two, I thought it had a fun sound and also opened my door as I got in. Now for the interior of the actual lighthouse, there's not supposed to be dirt there, just ignore that. There's a couple of missing floorboards. Like I said, it's supposed to be a really worn out building. I haven't actually established what I want to do with this interior specifically, so if you guys have any fun ideas, let me know in the comments. But for the second building, we have a very simple, small interior right here that goes upstairs through a ladder to our medical bay. And all this is again shelter from storms from the oceans. You can sleep in here, or this can also act as some sort of hospital bed, and there's all sorts of tools that you may be able to use in a medieval medical situation. And that is just about all that I have for the tour of this lighthouse. I was super pleased with how this island ended up turning out. And by next episode, we should have enough dripstone to work on our lava farm. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. If you did, consider subscribing, because I would love to see you in the next episode. And speaking of next episodes, here's a couple that I think that you would enjoy.